How's it going, everybody? The Nameless Narcissist here once again. A simple man diagnosed with NPD, trying to clear up some of those misconceptions about narcissistic personality disorder and tell you what's going on in my head. Keep in mind, I'm a clinician, so I can hardly speak to anything other than my own experiences, but I hope you enjoy this video, and if you do, please like, comment, and subscribe. Anyways, emotionality. Ooh, this was one that fucked me up for a long time. I used to think for so long, I'm cold, I'm unemotional, I am so rational and so just perfectly logical, right? And I convince a lot of people of this, if I'm being honest. It's like, oh, I'm cold, I don't let emotions affect anything I say or do. But here's the thing about NPD. We are in the emotional, dramatic, and erratic cluster. We are very emotional, but those emotions may not present in the same way as it would with somebody with BPD or like a normal person even. One, we experience anger a lot. This anger is intense and it is an emotion. So off the bat, we are emotional. We're very quick to anger most of the time. I'm sure there's some people with NPD who aren't as quick to it as I am, but from what I hear, the most common emotions are that and shame. And that's another one, shame. That's an emotion, and we feel it a lot over almost everything about us, assuming our grandiose defenses aren't working. It's very overwhelming to us, hence why we can get so angry to try to defend against it. So you say something bad about me, I feel a bunch of shame, and then subconsciously I immediately start to attack and get angry so that I can hide from that shame. So 2 emotions already. Wow, we're on a great roll. And now when it comes to the other emotions, it gets so much more complicated. And even with shame, it's a little bit more complicated because some people with NPD, their grandiose structures are working so effectively that they aren't even conscious of it because we suffer from afflictsmia. I'm probably mispronouncing that. But we struggle to identify what our emotions are. For a very, very long time, I could not identify shame. I called it the bad emotion because I had no idea what it was. It would just be this overwhelming bad feeling. I was like, is this guilt? This might be guilt. Who knows? I didn't think it was guilt, but like it felt different than how people describe guilt. But like I had no idea what it was, and it would be so quickly overwhelmed by anger that I couldn't dissect it in the moment. And most of the emotions kind of work like that for me. Disgust, for example. I couldn't differentiate disgust and anger for a long time. I would get very angry at people, like, for example, like, I would hear about, like, I don't know, a pedophile, right? And I get angry about the fact that this person even existed. I'm like, why didn't we just castrate him or kill him? Who cares? But it was because I felt this disgust that I didn't know was disgust. It was just anger. And I'm sure that I felt both of those with that, but like it was so overwhelmed by the anger that I couldn't even identify that disgust was that core uncomfortable feeling that I was experiencing. I'm trying to think more emotions. I feel entertainment and stuff. I don't really feel happy. I feel like happiness is so much of a more pervasive emotion than how I experience it, where it's just kind of brief intervals of entertainment and being amused, while happiness is like almost a contentment. And it's another thing. I hate contentment because I equate that with complacency. I'm like, if I'm ever happy with myself or with my emotions or whatever, I become complacent. I'll stop moving forward, and I can never stop moving forward. I have to keep striving towards the goals, greatness, fame, fortune, whatever I'm obsessed with at the time. I have to always be moving towards that. And if I'm complacent, if I'm happy, then I'll stop. And that's terrifying. I hate the idea of being complacent. I hate that. And also I try to repress a lot of these emotions because it's weakness and it's losing control over myself. If I act on emotions, then I'm weak. I have given in to primal instincts. I am nothing then. I'm just an animal. And I have relinquished my control over one of the only things I have control over, myself. And I want to have control over everything. And if I can't have control over myself, what do I even have control over? And that sucks. I hate that. I remember, and some of this for me definitely comes from the fact that I had a lot of internalized BPD stigma growing up, because some of my family members have very strong BPD stuff. And I hated the idea of being emotional. I hated the idea of being controlled by my emotions. I hated the idea of being affected by anything that wasn't me. I still hate it. I still hate it so much. And I feel just this contempt for anybody. I view myself as above anybody who just has normal emotions, because I'm like, you're letting that rule you. Act independently. Act for yourself. Like, be a normal person in my mind. Be rational. Be logical. And I see this so often. And that's the thing, is that it's so grandiose for us to think, because I still think that sometimes. I'm like, I can view the world better than people because I'm more rational than other people. I'm better because of that. And that's grandiosity. That's a literal grandiose delusion that I frequently have, and I have known other people with MBD who have had that. And that's just not true. We are very emotional. We are ruled by our sensitivity to criticism, by our shame, by our anger. And maybe in some cases, especially if it doesn't involve us, I do believe that we can be more rational. We definitely cut ourselves off from those emotions, and we're just kind of like, yeah, well, people in Syria are dying. Who gives a shit? And we can have more rational opinions on it because we don't have those factors affecting us. But if it involves us and our interpersonal relationships, we are not rational. We are emotional. And whatever. I hate admitting that. God, I hate admitting that. I really do. I really do. My God. But we are emotional. It's this myth that narcissists can't feel emotions. If you literally can't feel emotions, you probably are closer to ASPD than NPD, if I'm being honest. But even people with ASPD, they're still emotional. Anger is an emotion. I'm not sure if they feel emotions, if I'm being honest. That might be it. But even if all they feel is intense anger, which they do, you're still emotional. Is what it is. And even if you are somebody who is so disconnected from your emotions that most of them aren't conscious, that's not to say that you're not emotional. For so long, emotions that I could not even recognize affected me in such a profound way. I mentioned this story before. I had a friend who offed himself, and I didn't feel anything. I went to the funeral, and I was like, oh God, everyone's going on faking this compassion. I gotta pretend better. Day 2 later, I drank myself into a stupor, way more than I usually do, and I was a wreck. I was completely a wreck, emotional. I wasn't crying, but I was close to it. And I didn't even connect the fact that oh, my fucking friend just died. That's probably why I was emotional. I couldn't connect those things. I didn't know why I was being emotional, but it takes time for me to be able to experience the emotion, and when I do experience it, I can't even recognize what caused it. It just felt random. Because I would try to self-soothe with stuff with drinking and stuff, and it was why did I do that? Even now, I can't recognize how an emotion affected me until, at times, months, years after. There's some things in my past that I still look back on, and I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? And the answer probably is that I had emotion about something before it, and it affected my action, and I still can't recognize what that is. Maybe I don't even remember it. Because in the moment I don't feel those emotions, and even afterwards, it's hard to connect to them. And I might have an extreme meltdown, but I don't even know what I'm feeling when I'm having a meltdown like that. Is it shame, sadness, guilt, grief? I don't know. All those things are so similar to me. I used to say that I only had 3 emotions: good, bad, and angry. And anger has it feels like it has a spectrum of ways it can present and types of anger. But even nowadays, it's so hard to distinguish them. Well, yes. But that is to say that we do feel emotions, and we are still very heavily affected by them, even if we deny to ourselves we're affected by them, or to others, or if we can't even tell what those emotions are. Oh man, I hate doing this in this video. I hate people knowing I'm emotional. Whatever. Anyways, hope you all have a good day. Hope you found this insightful. Do those things I said at the beginning of the video if you like this. Anyways, take your fucking meds. Have a good day.